This season, I drafted 25 fantasy football teams to see if I was actually good at fantasy football. And even though all my friends are like, no, go outside, touch grass, do something else, I say no. I need to know once and for all whether or not I'm good at this game. I think back to my first ever fantasy draft with a couple of my friends, and for some reason my friend's dad. I remember having my first round pick and looking at this huge pool of players that, to be honest, I did not know who they were, and I racked my brain looking for a player that I knew to take. My brain was like, take Tom Brady, it'll be fun. And so I took Tom Brady with my first overall pick, and I ended up getting absolutely dumpstered that season. And ever since then, I've wanted nothing more than to redeem myself for that truly outrageous season. And so to do that, I drafted quite a few teams this year. Now, it might not seem like a huge deal. After all, it's only a fake game based on a real game, but for these players, it's very real, and I'll tell you why. If, by the end of this season, these teams do not collectively win at least 228 games, I will throw every man, woman, and well, actually, I guess it's only men. I will throw every man on these fantasy football teams off a cliff. I mean it. I'm serious. And those might be sharks down there. Who knows? So yes, it's only a game, but really, these guys are out here fighting for their lives. But you know what? Let's back up a second. Because before there were 25 teams, there was one. And this team has a difficult choice to make. We're sitting here at the end of the third round, and we've already drafted Tyreek Hill and Saquon Barkley. So the question is, where do we go with our next pick? And there are three options. First, we could take a safe running back like Joe Mixon or Najee Harris. Now, these guys carry very low risk, but the best case scenario for their season is that they're good, not great. Our second option would be to take a receiver like Deebo Samuel or Keenan Allen, who are maybe a little bit riskier but offer quite a bit more upside. And the third option is to take a quarterback or tight end here. In fantasy, since you only start one quarterback or tight end per team, it's a huge relief to have a solid guy you can count on there every week. Each of these three options are relatively safe. The most likely outcome for each of these guys is that they have decent seasons, and maybe they help us win a couple of games throughout the season. But what if I told you there's a secret fourth option here? A guy who could potentially be a huge difference maker and lead this team to become a championship contender. I'm talking about Breece Hall. Last year, he tore his ACL, and his rookie season was cut short midway through. And although we don't know it now, in the future, the Jets are going to sign a free agent running back to take some of the pressure off Breece while he tries to return to his full form. This is obviously bad for fantasy football because we want our players to be taking all of the touches, not sharing them with some other bozo. So, taking into consideration these factors, the most likely outcome for Breece is that he doesn't return value for where we're drafting him. Probably what'll happen is he might get re-injured or he can't fight his way back up to the starting role, and his season will end up being mediocre. But the unlikely outcome here, the dark horse in this race, is that Breece comes back this season with a vengeance and returns to being the elite running back we saw before he was hurt last year. And if that happens, ooh, baby, if that happens, Breece Hall in the third will look like an absolute steal. And if that happens, this team goes from a good team to one that could win a championship. And if that's even a remote possibility, there's simply no decision to be made here, because the first rule of fantasy football before anything else is to play to win. And remember, these guys need to win. Oh, hey, that was fun. Thank God the draft is over. Now that we're done with the drafting, we just get to sit back and relax and, see what this team does. Put our feet up. Okay, well, you know what? Never mind. I forgot. Got more drafting to do. Whatever. Didn't want to relax anyway. A few days later, we're drafting Team 4. It starts out ordinary with us taking Tyreek Hill in the first round again, but then in the second round, something extraordinary happens. We are sitting down, looking at the draft board in front of us, and we can't believe our eyes, because there's someone on the draft board right now. Someone that shouldn't be here. That player is Bijan Robinson, the rookie running back for the Atlanta Falcons, and every other team in the league has made a huge mistake letting him get back to us. You see, in fantasy football, there are certain archetypes of players that are almost always good bets to make. And one of those archetypes is young running backs. Running back is the most important position in fantasy football. They get hurt more than other positions, and a lot of the time they don't even finish a full season. But a truly great running back can be the most valuable asset in the entirety of the fantasy football world. Over the last 10 years, there have been 16 running backs to average more than 22.5 points per game. For reference, only 7 receivers over that time period have put up those numbers. There are a couple of running backs every year who have a chance to do this, and if you manage to get your hands on one, it can break the game. So how do we find one of these truly great running backs? Well, youth is a leading factor. The majority of these seasons on this list come from running backs under the age of 23. In general, running back is the position that becomes the most difficult to be good at as you get older. And on top of his youth, Bijan was drafted extremely high by his current team and joins the most efficient rushing offense from last year. A perfect storm of factors surround Bijan Robinson, and Team 4 is ecstatic to draft him in the second round. Hey, look at us, guys. At this point, we've drafted what, 4 teams? Great job, everyone. I'm so proud of us. We're doing great. But I tell you what, why don't I tell you about some other successful archetypes and we let the rest of these teams, just let them draft themselves. No harm in doing that. Okay, sound good? Yes. All right, cool. Our second archetype to target is second-year wide receivers. In terms of having a successful NFL career, it's imperative that wide receivers show that they're good in their first 3 seasons. If by their 3rd season a wide receiver doesn't show to the world that they're good, the odds of them having a successful career plummet pretty drastically. Statistically, the most likely year for an NFL receiver to break out is their 2nd season. This year, that includes guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, and Drake London, all of whom will be taking quite a bit. The next archetype we like to target after wide receivers in their 2nd season is... oh, would you look at that? It's wide receivers in their 1st season. Rookie wide receivers are super important in fantasy football, but for a completely different reason. You see, usually it takes time to succeed as a wide receiver in the NFL. You have to build trust with your quarterback, your team, your coach, even your fan base. And while second-year wide receivers have generally built that trust when they break out, rookie wide receivers are still in the process of earning it. If a wide receiver has the necessary talent, trust can sometimes be the only factor that's holding them back from success. And the thing is, rookie wide receivers generally earn that trust. It just doesn't happen for the first half of the season. But once it happens, they have the potential to be some of the highest scorers in the entirety of fantasy football. And look, obviously, we'd rather a player be good for the entire season. But that's why rookie wide receivers aren't drafted very highly. They're taken in the 7th, 8th, 9th round because people know they won't be good right away. And to be fair, if they're gonna pick a half to be good in, why not have it be the second half of the season, the half that matters more, when the playoffs happen and fantasy football championships are won or lost? So yeah, I guess we want to draft both first-year wide receivers and second-year wide receivers. How about that? Even though it's for completely different reasons. So we have our 4th target here, but we actually have a team who's willing to do a demonstration for us. Come on up, Team 13. Ooh, yeah, go Team 13, go! Good job, we love you! It is now the beginning of August, the weather outside is hot, and the fantasy football community is salivating over the most recent training camp videos. And we're drafting Team 13. The archetype that Team 13 is going to acquire is a rushing quarterback. You see, having a rushing quarterback in fantasy is a lot like having one in real life. While pocket passers can only move the ball by throwing, rushing quarterbacks have a second element to their game that effectively doubles their point scoring potential. To illustrate my point, let me give you an example. What is the greatest single season a quarterback has ever had? A lot of people would say Patrick Mahomes' first MVP season, so we'll use that as our example. During that season, Patrick Mahomes scored 26.07 fantasy points per game, which is admittedly quite a few. But even though this is one of the greatest single seasons by a quarterback in the entire history of the NFL, it's still absolutely dwarfed by Lamar Jackson's 2019 season. Lamar averaged almost 2 more points per game as he rushed for over 1,200 yards that season. In fact, if you look at the 11 seasons over the last 10 years where a quarterback has scored more than 23 points per game, you'll notice that guys don't have to be as good as Patrick Mahomes in order to put up monster fantasy football seasons, provided they use their legs. Kyler Murray is on this list, Deshaun Watson, and even Josh Allen early on in his career wasn't that great. The key to fantasy football success at the quarterback position lies in rushing, which is why on Team 13, we draft Jalen Hurts with our 4th round pick. But more importantly, it's why in round 12 we took a shot on one of the most important players for fantasy this year, Anthony Richardson. Richardson stands at 6'4", 245 pounds, and is statistically the most athletic quarterback prospect of all time. At this point, we've drafted him in 7 of our leagues, but rest assured that number is only going to go up. If he's bad, so what? We used a 12th round pick on a guy that didn't pan out. But if he's good, oh heavens if he's good, the rest of the league better watch out. Because it's not even that unrealistic that he ends up being better than Lamar Jackson. Like, he could seriously do that, which is absurd upside for a player that you get in the 12th round. Anyway, it almost always comes back to our first rule of fantasy football: playing to win. Hey, what's up guys? You guys tired? We tired of drafting? Yeah, we're probably tired of drafting. Why don't I take this opportunity to show you guys around the map? I'll just show you guys around the map, show you what's going on. You know, I'll show you guys around the map. Over here, we talked about it a little bit earlier. This is the winometer. This is how we'll be tracking our win-loss record as the season progresses, and how we'll determine whether or not we were successful this season. Remember, if this number is below 65%, every one of these players are getting thrown off a cliff. Where do they get thrown, you might ask? Well, it's a good question. Over here, we have the walk the plank zone. And yeah, those might be sharks, who knows? The walk the plank zone is reserved exclusively for players that don't contribute to the team's success. But really, it's not even that. It's all about effort, you see, and if I feel like someone isn't trying to help the team as much as they could be, or I don't like their attitude, then they get kicked off this cliff. It is as simple as that. Anyway, over here we've got the trade block. It's a fun little, exciting little spot, and it's where all of our problems are gonna get fixed. Maybe your star player gets injured and you need a replacement. Boom, trade block. Maybe you realized you didn't draft a single good running back. Boom, trade block. Maybe, God forbid, your team is just too damn good. Your starting lineup is overflowing with talent to the point where the players on the bench would be starters on other teams. Boom, trade block. We package all those players together to upgrade our starting lineup. They get to play elsewhere, we get a better starter. Everyone wins. This section on the map is an area we'll be using to track various metrics throughout the season, but you don't have to worry about that just yet. We'll probably talk about that in the next video. Anyone got the time? What time is it? Oh, that's right, it's draft o'clock. Here is our final team being drafted, and boy are they looking good. This is probably as good of an opportunity that I'll get to show you guys our final strategy that we've been using. Yeah, at this point all the teams have been drafted, so you're just gonna have to trust me that I implemented this throughout the process. The third strategy basically boils down to this. We're drafting our teams on ESPN. ESPN is a platform that's full of kids and fantasy casuals who, make no mistake, still want to beat us into the ground, but who also might not be the sharpest hacks in the box when it comes to winning. But there's another platform where all the real fantasy football players play, where hundreds of thousands spend real money to gamble on a fake game based on a real game. I guess. I'm talking about Underdog. And on Underdog, the drafters are a lot more smart when it comes to making good picks, and they have real money on the line to ensure that they make the best choices for them. Now, this helps us because we can look at how the average draft falls on Underdog and compare it to how the average draft falls on ESPN, which will help us figure out who the better players are taking more. If the guys on Underdog like a player more than the guys on ESPN do, it's usually a sign that ESPN is late to the party. Near the tops of these lists are guys like Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, and Dalton Kincaid, all of whom we scoop up on our Final Fantasy team. And hey, would you look at that? Our Final Fantasy team has been drafted. We're all done here. Using 3 rules, we have drafted 25 fantasy football teams. You know what, guys? I'm so happy we made it through this experience together. We came out the other side better people for it. We're more fulfilled. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so happy with what we've done. Hey, stop it. No. Stop. No. Ugh. Oh well, it was nice while it lasted. Injuries are the necessary evil of fantasy football. Without them, there would be no adversity, It would just be too easy, I guess. And we can't have that now, can we? Now, I mean it. Injuries are the bane of fantasy football. I don't mean in the metaphorical sense like, the bane of existence. I mean like the pick you up over their shoulders, drop you on their knee, break your back type of bane. That's what injuries are. So what do we do when that happens? What do we do when players get hurt? Someone like Jonathan Taylor, who you drafted with your second pick, maybe even your first pick, gets hurt. Or maybe not. We really don't know what's happening with that dude. Maybe his owner is just crazy. We're not really sure. Jury's still out on that one. But nonetheless, what do you do? And honestly, there's not even that great of an answer. Injuries just kind of happen, and you just kind of have to deal with them. You could draft a team full of the safest players on the draft board, and you'd still get affected by injuries one way or another. But the positive thing here is that your injuries don't define you. When guys go down, that sucks, but you still got a season to play. It's not about the adversity you face, it's about how you respond to it. It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, And when the most insane, stupidest things you've ever seen in your life happen, like your star running back suddenly beefing with their owner and maybe being hurt and maybe not being hurt, who even knows? Well, you know what? It's not about the players that can't play. It's about the ones that can. It's about the players who now have the opportunity to do something truly special, seizing that opportunity and never looking back.